Hey everyone, we are going to review discussion board 4. This one is a little bit different than your previous discussions because you're actually using AI generated content. So we're going to go into what that looks like. So the first thing is you're going to use either Copilot, which is the AI generator on like Windows computers or Windows phones. Or you can use another AI platform like ChatGPT, whatever you have access to. If you need help accessing that, there are videos down here that show you how to do this on a desktop and then on a mobile device. But essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to be thinking, I know it says describe a favorite childhood meal. I would just change that to describing your favorite meal because I get a lot of responses that are talking about like macaroni and cheese and fried chicken and spaghetti, and like I get that those are childhood meals, but then you kind of have trouble answering like the other questions and you want it to be really unique to you. So I would just go ahead and describe like a favorite meal. You want to include the sides, any drinks you had, desserts, and you're going to plug that into an AI prompt and ask it to evaluate nutritional strengths and weaknesses of that meal, and then ask it to suggest healthier alternatives. And then you're going to be filling in, these questions right here. So I'm going to kind of show you how to do this just using Copilot. Whoops, sorry about that. Let me go ahead and escape from my thing here. All right, so I'm using the sorry, I'm trying to clear my screen out so you can see it. So this is like the Copilot desktop version. And so I'm gonna say, I ate, I'm trying to think of like a meal that I ate recently. Meat loaf with corn on the cob and salad and not chocolate muffins, chocolate cupcake. And then I'm going to type in what is the nutritional value of this. What is the nutritional strengths and weaknesses of this meal? Okay. So it's going to think about it, and then it's going to give me, I don't want to, so it should give me the strengths and weaknesses. It says, like, would you like to continue this in Copilot Health? No, just give me the answer I'm looking for. Okay, so if it asks you for like Copilot Health, like just say no, and especially because that's like a paid paywall. So it's giving me, the good, right, the good and the bad. So we've got nutritional weaknesses here. And then you want to just tell it, please share some healthier changes I could make to this meal. And so then it gives you suggestions, right? So what you're going to then do is we're going to go back to, our original um, post that we're going to make. And I'm going to say, okay, the meal I chose was, and I chose meatloaf, corn on the cob, and chocolate cupcakes. Oh, I forgot the drinks, but that's okay. You can go back and put that in. So, Copilot stated that the nutritional strength of the meal was, and so you can go back, right, and we can review that right here. So it said it's a good protein source. There's, the corn gives you fiber. The salad gives you, all of these things. So you can write all that in there, right? And then the weaknesses were, we go down to here, like, oh, yep, it's got high saturated fat and sodium in the meatloaf. There's sugar, and refined flour from the chocolate cupcake. We don't have a lot of whole grains. It's pretty, dense in calories. And then the healthier alternatives it suggested were, so that was our healthier changes we could make. We could use leaner meat. We could add vegetables into it. We could use oats instead of breadcrumbs. Maybe don't have the glaze. For the corn on the cob, don't use butter. Don't use salt. Add herbs instead. Put a protein into the salad. We could get a smaller portion of the cupcake. We could swap for a fruit-based dessert. We could add a whole grain. So, right, like you don't have to list all of this, but you can list two or three things from for each thing. Um, so, then you say this aligns with what we learned from IntelliPath live chat because. So that's really important because in the instructions right here, it's saying, discuss how the AI's evaluation for healthier alternatives align with what we basically learned in class. So you're going to say, okay, this aligns with what we learned because protein's important because of XYZ thing. Unsaturated fats are important because of, what we learned. Fiber is important, any of those things, right? And then the last question you're going to answer is the changes that suggested were realistic or not realistic because, and then you have your answers, right? So this is a lot different, right? Because we're actually asking you to use AI and use it ethically, right? So this is a great way for you to kind of showcase that. Again, there shouldn't be any high similarity scores with this. Unless you're just going into the AI prompt and asking it to choose the meal for you. Because if you do that, then like I said, I tend to get a lot of macaroni and cheese, spaghetti, fried chicken. So, I'm gonna know if you didn't put a lot of effort into this. Um, so that is kind of where I'm giving you, my example that I posted in my instructor example. So I talked about, the meal that I liked. And then, when I used it, what it gave me as the strengths and the weaknesses. I also included, in our Unit 3 IntelliPath lessons, what we learned. I also put that in the unit, the weaknesses part, and then, the updates that I could make, as well as, whether it's realistic or not. So you can see, right, like there's a couple of sentences for each one of those 4 questions. So this post is going to be a little bit lengthier than maybe some of your other ones. Our peer responses. So again, we want them to be substantive. You want them to ask questions, provide resources, things like that, just like you've been doing. So the bad response is, I really like fried chicken and mashed potatoes as well. We used to have this every Sunday. I think you can improve this by eating more salads and fruit. Nutrition is important. We should all eat better. Now, while these things are true, right? Like they are saying like, hey, maybe you can eat more salad and fruit. It's not really substantive. There's no really like meat to this response. It's short. It really is just kind of like saying like, hey, I liked your post. Here's kind of a thing you could do. So I wouldn't really consider it like substantive. There's no questions here. There's no, room for discussion. Like, it's not going to continue. Like, more than likely, somebody's not going to respond to this. So the good response, right? They're acknowledging what they said. They're agreeing with some of the things. They're talking about what they learned from the IntelliPath, lessons. Um, they give them an article, and it's talking about that the foods that are considered the best for us also cost the most. And then they ask them a really relevant question, like, how do you think these costs can be managed so that all people, regardless of income status, have access to good nutrition? So this is what you want to kind of model your responses after. Now, again, you don't want to, copy and paste this, because that's plagiarism. So don't do that. But you can see this is a good example of a good peer response. And then, of course, your rubric, you're, demonstrating understanding of biological and nutritional principles by evaluating a meal and critically assessing AI-generated suggestions. So this is basically just saying, like, hey, did you bring in what you learned from, your Unit 3 IntelliPath lessons about biology and nutrition, and, evaluate your peers, talking about those principles in your initial post, and then assessing whether you can do what AI suggested, or even if what AI suggested is correct. And then, as far as the second part, post reflects on cultural, practical, and personal significance of the meal, showing how science can inform but not override real life choices. This one is just more like where you're answering, why was that meal important to you? What are the benefits, to it, the weaknesses based on science and what we understand about nutrition, and then, like, the realistic aspects of replacing some of the things that, like, AI suggested. So, like, for instance, it might not be realistic for you to replace refined carbohydrates with complex carbohydrates, because maybe they cost more, or you can't find them in your store. So you have to stick with, like, the regular, pasta noodles, or whatever you think works best, right? Or whatever costs less, because let's face it, like, food is expensive, like, right now. Um, you've got your discussion board responses that we've kind of covered, and everything else. So again, if you have questions about this, especially about using, like, the AI generation, if you've never used it before, like if you've never used Copilot or ChatGPT, reach out to me. I can kind of help guide you through it. Otherwise, I look forward to your responses.